Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to the Jello Jiggling podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ward, and let's get right into this thing. So the Lakers, after a dreadful road trip in which they won, I believe, one game out of 5, beating Toronto barely by 6 points after I think they had a 20-plus lead, with losses to Phoenix, Cleveland, Detroit, and Memphis. Lakers came back to crypto and got 2 straight wins. One over Philadelphia, shorthanded, very shorthanded Philadelphia. No Embiid, no Maxey, just Paul George. And then beat Toronto for a second time in convincing fashion by 20. 2 solid wins, but 2 wins they should have got. I mean, there's no question about that. They're better than Toronto. They're better than Philadelphia, at least right now. Until Philadelphia is at full strength, but they're back on track. The only problem is now they got to deal with Anthony Davis getting poked in the eye by Jakob Poeltl. Hope I got his name correct there. I have to check every time I have to spell his freaking name. I've never actually said it out loud. But just not good, right? I mean, Davis has been playing at an MVP caliber level right now. I'm looking at ESPN's Lakers schedule where they got all the high points, high rebounds, high assists, and it's Davis all over the place. LeBron has only led the way 3 times against Sacramento, Cleveland, and Memphis, where AD went. No, AD didn't go down that game. 39. Damn, I didn't realize LeBron had 39 that game. And then Reeves led once against Toronto, 27. That probably wouldn't happen if AD was able to stay in the game because I think he already put up like 20 points. Not good, though. I feel so bad for AD because if this guy could stay healthy consistently, I mean, he'd be unstoppable. He'd be potentially the best player in the league. I mean, I know that kind of goes to Jokic at the moment. I mean, Jokic put up some ridiculous numbers recently, got named Western Conference Player of the Week with Darius Garland on the East side. But AD was a nominee along with LeBron, and understandably so. He's just putting up ridiculous numbers and seems engaged, seems like focused on killing it. What is he averaging right now? So AD is the second leading scorer in the league right now with 31.2 points per game. He's 14th in rebounds at 10.4, which isn't spectacular, but it's still a double-double he's averaging. 2.8 assists and shooting 57.7% from the floor. What's his three-point percentage? Let's see. 35.3, but he's been reluctant to shoot threes because he's not a great three-point shooter, but whatever. Shooting 79% from the free throw line. 2 blocks per game, impressive. 1.3 steals per game, impressive for a big man. But he's been awesome. And now he's got this eye injury, which is the same eye he got poked in last year, which I think cost him a couple of games. We have no idea what's going on with him. I know he got evaluated on Monday. No update. We're guaranteed to get an update today because they always update us a day ahead of the game. Well, actually, so we play tomorrow against Memphis again with no Ja. At least that's what's last time I checked. There was no Ja. It would suck if they have to go in that game without him. And if I'm a betting man, maybe he's not going to play. But the thing is, we just don't know. I will say this, though. The one thing I felt bad for him when he went down, and it was I wouldn't say it was a dirty play. It was just an unfortunate, his hand, Poeltl's hand came down on AD's face pretty badly. I think it was on a block, and AD still managed to block him, which was incredible since he couldn't see anything. But he went down, and my first thought wasn't like, oh, God, I hope he's all right. And even though that was in the back of my mind, it's like, damn, dude, you need to start wearing some goggles. You need to take some tips from James Worthy and Kareem, who wore goggles basically their whole career. I don't think Kareem started out with goggles, and I don't know if James Worthy started, but they both definitely finished with it. And there's a reason for that. They probably got poked in the eye one too many times. I mean, those guys both, are at the rim all the time, just like AD. It's going to happen. And with the guy is fragile is a bad word to use, but a guy who gets hurt as often as AD, won't you want to minimize risk? I know it's got to be uncomfortable wearing glasses or goggles. I mean, goggles is kind of extreme, but at least some kind of eye protection. But it could be the difference maker, man. Like it could, or one difference maker. I mean, it's not like it's going to keep his knees intact or his hamstring or his groin or anything like that, which he seems in his ankles or whatever. But it's something. Just minimize some risk. Why not? At least try it. I think he's worn them before. I think he wore them after last time. I almost guarantee he's going to be wearing them right out the gate, but he never sticks with it. He always ends up taking them off at some point down the line. But dude, what are you? 31 years old. You're going to turn 32 in March. You got to start thinking about the long term, and your body's not really holding up the way it should anyway. But when you do get locked in and you play at this high level, I mean, there's no stopping AD. They're just not. And this team needs him now more than ever because there's the lack of depth is glaring. I mean, it's basically AD, LeBron, huge drop off, and then you got Reeves, D'Lo, Rui, and then another huge drop off, and you got basically Connect, who is your best player off the bench. Well, Cam Reddish has kind of turned into that guy, but Cam Reddish has replaced D'Lo in the starting lineup lately. I think Connect got a nod there once, but yeah, just a cause for concern, more cause for concern. It's just this team is so thin in so many areas that they can't afford injuries. I mean, they're already down two notable guys in Wood and Vando, so they can't afford to lose AD. I mean, they lose AD for a significant amount of time, and this team is screwed. I don't think they're digging out of that hole. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully this is a thing he can bounce back from quickly. I don't anticipate him missing a lot of time. Maybe a game or two, if that. But the schedule does get a little brutal pretty soon. I mean, you got some fairly easy games coming up. At least they should. I don't know if there's been an easy game for the Lakers this year outside of what they just did to Toronto. But they faced Memphis on Wednesday. They got at San Antonio on Friday. They got at New Orleans the day after on a back-to-back. San Antonio's not great again. You got Wemby, who's a problem, and will be even more of a problem if AD's not there. But that's a winnable game. New Orleans is like, talk about thin. Damn, I feel bad for those guys. I think the news just broke today that Jose Alvarado is going to miss weeks with something. It's all their guys are just down. Like that should be an easy game. It should be just a G League team essentially that they're playing. And then they got Utah next week, next Tuesday. That should be a W. Orlando, who's struggling without Paolo, who's out. I mean, there's a ton of stars out right now. It's kind of a crappy time in the season. And it happens right away. And then the juggernaut, Denver, on Saturday, which will be a tough game. And then that's where it kind of starts getting tough. Then they got Phoenix at Phoenix that following Tuesday. They face San Antonio again in San Antonio, which should be a dub. And then OKC that Friday. So that week is going to be pretty tough. They're on the road for 2 games, and they face 3 teams that are going to be really tough to take down. And then it's a pretty much kind of somewhat brutal stretch on the road after OKC on December 1st to about, I mean, we're going up to Christmas Day practically with tough games. Some easy ones. Right out the gate, Utah should win that one. At Minnesota, that's going to be tough. At Miami, potentially tough. At Atlanta, should be a dub. Portland should be a dub. And then back-to-backs at Sacramento over a 3-day stretch, which is odd. I mean, they're going to be in Sacramento of all places for 3 or 4 days. And then Detroit, who kicked their ass last time. And then Golden State on Christmas Day, which should be tough. Wow, they play Sacramento 3 times in December. From December 19th to December 28th, they play them 3 times. What is the NBA doing with this? This is just strange. I've noticed that kind of a lot in the schedule early on too, playing Toronto twice. They've already played Phoenix twice before they play them again Thanksgiving week. It's just a little odd. And there's another I see back-to-back against San Antonio. There's a lot of doubled up games. Clippers. They play Clippers twice in a row from February 28th to March 2nd. It just seems a little odd, little different, but whatever. I mean, the NBA is changing stuff constantly, and they should, especially with them struggling at the moment for viewership or whatever. I think that kind of happens every year, though. Around this time, people just easing back into basketball, and football is the main thing. We just had baseball just finished with the Dodgers kicking everybody's ass to win it all. But to get back on track here, trade rumors have already surfaced, which is no surprise because it's the Lakers, and trade rumors are always swirling around this team, no matter what time of year it is. It looks like D'Lo will be the main piece leaving LA if anything happens, and they've really struggled to trade that guy anyway, so it might not happen. If the summer's any indication, that no teams are really buying when it comes to D'Angelo Russell, and it's not like he's played great this year. He hasn't. I think he played good last game, but as a whole, he's just not putting up great numbers. But so the 2 names apparently from Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports. I think, is he still at Yahoo Sports or is he somewhere else? Can't keep up with these guys moving around anymore. Let me just check real quick, just so I know. Looks like it. I don't know this guy personally. No, actually, he's a free agent. Interesting. The People's Insider, he's calling himself. Dark horse candidate. I think Chris Haynes is still a free agent too, I believe. Wow. And then Mark Stein never jumped on anywhere else. I think he just fell in love with Substack. Hey, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's the way to go if you got sources. Just market yourself. I don't blame these guys. Anyway, Brook Lopez and Jonas Valancuinas are the 2 top guys that appear to be targets for the Lakers. We already knew about Jonas. That was all summer. That was, are they going to sign him? I thought he was the perfect fit next to AD. I mean, it fit all the qualifications they wanted. A guy who could score, he can rebound. He's a bruising big, which is a term that got used tons of times, is what the Lakers were targeting. He checks all those boxes, all of them. But he ended up signing in Washington of all friggin' places. But then there's Brook Lopez with Milwaukee. At this point, Milwaukee could be selling everything in maybe a month. I mean, I know we got a while until the trade deadline in February, but they look awful. That Damian Lillard Giannis experiment is not working. So it could just be a matter of time before Giannis is like, I'm out. They've won 2 games in 10. 2 out of 10 games. That's for a team that's supposed to be a title contender. Doc Rivers and Dame and Giannis and Chris Middleton, who I don't even know if he's back on the floor yet, but he's never really healthy anyway. East is just awful. Awful. Outside of Boston and Cleveland. Cleveland has just been incredible. The only undefeated team left, 12-0. They are just destroying teams. They have a 12-point differential What is it? They're giving up 110 and they're scoring 122 a game. Damn, that is like that's pretty damn good. Well, I mean, there's a few teams scoring like 120 or whatever, but they're winning and they're holding their opponents to 12-point wins. So, but there's only 2 teams in the East that are above 500 right now. 2, Cleveland and Boston. Boston's 9-2. The closest to Boston is the Indiana Pacers at 5-5, and then the rest of the Eastern Conference. I'm not kidding. The rest of the Eastern Conference has a losing record. That is wild. I mean, New York 4-5, Orlando 5-6, Indiana. Oh no, Indiana's 5-5. Miami 4-5, Milwaukee 2-8, Philadelphia 2-7. I mean, it's ugly. I don't remember the East being this bad a very long time. And then you look at if the Lakers were in the East right now, they'd be in 3rd place. That's how crazy this is. And the Lakers are currently in 7th behind the Grizzlies, where they could potentially, become 7-4 with a win over them tomorrow, which I think is going to happen if Ja's not playing. But then again, I don't know. They got some feisty players with an axe to grind for the Lakers. So Jay Huff killed them last game. Scottie Pippen Jr. These guys that just didn't get to catch on with the Lakers are like real dudes on Memphis. So ahead of the Lakers right now, you got Memphis at 6, Houston Rockets at 5, Denver at 4, Golden State at 3, Phoenix at 2, and OKC at 1. OKC is clearly the cream of the crop. They just lost Chet Holmgren for, I think, months with a hip fracture or something. That sounds so painful. But they're destroying teams. They're beating teams by 12 points a game. Phoenix is looking really good. KD looks like old KD. They're just functioning great under Coach Bud. Golden State looks great. That's another team. I didn't see that coming. They've won 8 out of their last 10. Denver seems to be trending back up after looking like crap in the beginning. They've won 5 straight. I mean, the West is pretty much shaping out the way you'd think it would, except for Dallas. Dallas is 5-5, and if the playoffs started today, they wouldn't even be in the play-in. So, or would they? No, they wouldn't. Clippers are 6-5. That's a little surprising too, actually. Minnesota's 6-4. I mean, it's kind of shaping up the way you would think. I think Houston's 7-4. Damn, I didn't see that. Wow. West is interesting. The East is a dumpster fire. There's 2 teams to be scared of in the East, and that's it. I mean, that'll change. I think when Paolo gets back, Orlando's going to be better. I think there's a chance Indiana could get back on track. New York's got to get their shit together because they're kind of a mess at the moment, especially with all that talent. Talk about a disappointment. Miami could be on the verge of breaking it up. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jimmy Butler get traded somewhere, maybe Golden State. I mean, Golden State is a team to watch right now because they're playing well and they want to bring in another guy. I think Brian Windhorst of ESPN said recently that if any team is going to make a big trade, it's going to be them. So they're probably on Jonas watch. I don't know what the hell they have to trade because they couldn't even get Markin in. So that'll be interesting, but maybe Jonas forces his way there. I think there was a report that came out that if Jonas is going to get traded, it's only if he asks to be traded. And I think at this point, he has to be thinking about, is this going to work? Am I wasting my time here? Maybe it's time to leave. If I were him, I'd want out. There's too many. They're one of the older teams in the league. Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Middleton can't stay healthy. Dame's getting older. Dame's not looking like Dame anymore. Go jump on another squad, dude. I wish the Lakers had anything that Milwaukee wanted, because imagine him in LA. Wow, it'd be incredible. He'd be perfect for this town. Anyway, back to the Lakers. Either of those guys I think would be great. I think Jonas would be much better. I think he's a little younger. Brook is, he's a great player, but he can't have much left in the tank. What is he? Check and see how old he is. 36 years old. Brook Lopez is 36, and he's a 7-footer. That is, what has he got? A couple years left, and he's averaging 9.0 points, 4.6 rebounds, 1.6 assists, and 39% from the field. That's field goals. That's not 3-pointers. That's awful. He could be washed. There's probably an argument there. I haven't watched Milwaukee play, so I don't know how he's looking. But I mean, the last game, November 10th against Boston, said he played 29 minutes and scored 6 points. 1 board for a 7-footer. Ugh. Okay. Cross him off. I don't think they should get him. That's not looking great at all. That's worse than I thought. I thought he would have decent numbers, but that is like seriously, you should start thinking like, hey, this guy's done. And then you got Jonas, who is 4 years younger. He's 32. He's averaging 12.3 points, 7.2 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and shooting the lights out 59% from the floor. His last game, 10 points, 2 assists, 8 rebounds. See, the thing is, you don't need a ton from this guy. You just need somebody to kind of shoulder the load a bit in the front court. I mean, imagine him and AD. That's a pretty intimidating front court right there. I definitely take this guy instead. He's not even 7 foot. He says 6'11". Well, you know how those go. Well, it's a lot of BS there. What does he shoot? He's shooting 33% from deep, averaging 7.2 rebounds. Yeah, I like it. I mean, he's not a defensive beast, but he give you some pop on offense. I think because Jackson Hayes, he had a good game recently, but it's not sustainable. Jackson and the plus all this stuff he's got off the court, the league is going to suspend him at some point. I don't think it'll be a huge long suspension, but once their investigation is over, I always wonder, do they have a timeline for these investigations? Is it like a month, 6 months to a year, a couple weeks? I mean, what the hell is it? They just say investigating, and then it's just, just who knows from there on out. They lose him, and the Lakers are going to be super thin in the front court. I mean, you'll have Koloko. You'll have Koloko starting potentially. That's wild, and Koloko does not look good. The guy has no meat on his bones. He got pushed around like crazy against Triple J when they played Memphis. And it was so obvious. Like, they just gave every opponent the blueprint on how to take Koloko out of the game completely. And that's just body him up. Just body. I mean, if they have a big that's capable of that, body him up, take him to the paint, and just crush him and get him fouled out or in foul trouble. Either one. So he's not going to be an impact player, at least not from here on out, I don't think. So if you can get Valancuinas, say, for D'Lo, and I don't know, maybe somebody else on Washington can come. The contracts, what is D'Lo making? 18? I think D'Lo's making 18.6. This is something that you need to kind of understand. D'Lo is an expiring deal, right? He is 18.6 left on his deal. They essentially have to move him because he's not. They have to get something in return for him because he could just easily walk in the summer. Maybe he's had enough of everything that comes with LA. The constant trade rumors, everybody jumping on him the second he has a bad shooting night, which happens often. So he could just leave. I mean, I don't know what the market is for him because I don't think there was much of one this last summer, or else he would have opted out and tried his luck, but he didn't. So they got to move him, man. So they've got essentially a few months to get him out of here and find something in return. And Jonas would be a good addition. I don't know how the numbers work because I don't know what Jonas is making, but it's definitely probably something they're looking into. I thought it was funny that Jonas signed with Washington. It just didn't make much sense to me, but maybe they were just the only ones offering that much money. Okay, outside of that, I mean, because that's going to be ongoing for a while. If a deal's going to happen, I don't think it's going to happen soon. I think we're talking like after Christmas. Like January is where it starts to really ramp up. When is the trade deadline this year? It's always like the first week of February. NBA trade deadline. Please hold. Let's see. It is February 6th this year. So, yeah, they got a few months to wheel and deal. And the glaring problem for me with this team is the lack of pop off the bench. They just don't have anybody they can lean on off the bench, and that is not going to help. It's not good for the going forward because it's already reared its head, and it's rough to watch. Really, it's like one game there was like 10 points off the bench between two guys, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the worst I've seen the bench in a long time. I think they just kind of swung and missed with a few guys, which sucks, but it happens. Like here we got. Okay. So you got D'Lo off the bench now, which might be a smart move, having D'Lo off the bench and Cam Reddish in the starting lineup. Cam doesn't bring you anything offensively, but he's a good defender. Decent. He's probably he's their best perimeter defender. Easy. When Vando gets back, that'll change. But Gabe Vincent has not lived up to any expectations. Don't connect. Still needs time to build up his confidence, and he needs more shots and more reps. I think JJ needs to start ramping him up a little bit. Let's see what else we got. Where are you, Max Christie? Talk about a disappointment. I had high hopes for this kid, and I thought the team did as well. And they probably did, because you don't sign a kid for another 4 years if you don't have faith in him. But I do also think that the Lakers front office was desperate. They didn't have a lot of options, so they kind of had to deal with what they had to deal with. You had guys opt in. You had Jackson Hayes opt in. You had D'Lo opt in. I think Reddish, opted in. It was a tough offseason, and now they're feeling the impact of it, because the guys that they were hoping they could lean on, they can't lean on. JHS is bad. He's not a good NBA player. He's not an NBA player. He shouldn't be up there. Bronny, same thing. I don't understand the logic to keep bringing Bronny back up. I thought when he got sent down to South Bay, it was for the year. Like he'd be out because doesn't bring anything. The kid brings nothing to the table. It's not to say I'm not a Bronny hater or anything. I like the kid. I think he's a good. I've said this a few times. I think he's got great defensive instincts, but you can't be out there if you're a total liability on offense. You have to have something to bring to the table. I mean, he doesn't have anything offensively. He's a zero. He really is. And we've seen that a lot with a lot of these guys. JHS is a zero. Max Christie's becoming a zero. Maxwell Lewis is a zero. It's just they have no guys that they can lean on. That's Max in the background barking his head off. So why the hell wouldn't you bring up Quincy Olivari rather than Bronny? At least with Quincy, you got some pop off the bench. You got a guy who could potentially score 20, 25 points off the bench. I mean, I know the competition is different, and he may not be able to hang with that, but why not give it a shot? I don't understand what you keep bringing up Bronny for. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's you're giving up a spot on the bench where you desperately need somebody that you can count on there. It's one of those weird situations that I thought might happen this year, and start to piss people off. Because if I was Quincy, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, why is this kid going up when I am clearly better? And I can bring something to the table, like boom, right away. I hope that changes. I hope JJ gets a clue. I don't know if they've given promises to Bronny or LeBron or both. So he becomes one of those guys that gets brought up every other day. I hate tweeting out those updates because everybody hates them. Oh, the Lakers have assigned Bronny to the South Bay, and then all the Lakers are bringing him back. And it's like blah, blah, blah. It's this freaking seesaw thing that happens every other day, and it's annoying. But I want to see Quincy get some time. And if they start to struggle, we have seen JJ pivot like he did with D'Lo, sending him to the bench and bringing up Cam. Good move. So far, it's been a great move. And I think it's kind of sparked a little fire underneath D'Lo, which they need. They need that from him because he's not great as a starter this year. I mean, not great in general, but he seems to play better off the bench, at least for the time being. What else we got? And I would say this, JJ has been a better coach than I thought he was going to be. I gave him a lot of crap in the offseason, and I thought it could be potentially a disaster. And it's, you know what, it still could be. But right now, I think he is better than Ham. And I think the main reason for that is the players seem to respect him and want to play hard for him. I mean, there's been times already during the season where you're just like, what kind of effort is this? This is pathetic, especially defensively. In transition defense, which is a joke. But JJ seems to have that respect, and I've heard multiple players already say that, Reeves, even D'Lo, surprisingly enough, saying they're bought in. AD, play hard for your coach, and they want to play hard for him, and that's great. That's great. But it's 10 games in. Anything can happen from here on out. And if he keeps bringing up Bronny like this, and they struggle, and they clearly need a guy like Quincy off the bench, that could be a problem. It's turning into one. They've already got a problem there, which I don't know how the hell they're going to address it, because it's going to be difficult to make trades. I mean, the sad part is when you got a guy like Lonnie Walker sitting out there that could be signed, and he'd give you that pop off the bench right away. And he's got, experience and some chemistry with these guys already from his last stint. What are you doing? But I think JJ's hands might be tied a little bit in that sense. So he's got to deal with what he's got to deal with. And this is a challenging coaching experience for him right out of the gate. And that's, it should be that way. I think it's the success that they had in the first 3 games against good teams was, I'm not going to say a fluke, but didn't help them, because I think it's better when you struggle early and figure out your problems and then become the team you're going to become, rather than out the gate firing on all cylinders and then you regress. And that's what happened. I mean, they're popping back up, but we'll see what happens against tougher competition. I mean, Memphis is a decent team, but I don't think they're the same team without Ja. And I don't think Desmond Bane's playing either. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward. It's something to monitor. The number one thing that concerns me about JJ Redick is he is so fiery and so sensitive to certain things and seems to get triggered by a lot, that could become a problem if this team really starts to struggle, or if players start to turn on him. He could explode. I mean, he already did it in one press conference, and my colleague Trevor Lane from Lakers Nation asked him a question to end the press conference, And he just said that he already explained it and dropped the mic and left. I was like, damn, dude. So if he's already getting that pissed 10 games in, I don't think that was like 2 games, or no, that was Memphis, I think. But it's a concern. It's something to watch, because I think a guy like that can't keep his mouth shut. He's very impulsive. I mean, that could be a good thing too. I mean, great coaches have big mouths. Great coaches speak their mind, right? Which I like it. I like he's got some fire. So you didn't really see that from Darvin Ham at all. And even Frank Vogel rarely showed anything like that. And I like Frank Vogel, and I think he's a good coach. But it could also go in the other direction. It can also piss off players. He could lose the locker room at some point. He could rub the fans the wrong way. Which is easy to do in LA, because fans of the Lakers have such high standards, and understandably so. That's why there's 17 banners hanging in the rafters. So I hope he keeps it together. I do, because he has changed my mind about him. And I think he's got potential to be a great coach, not just a good coach, but a great coach. And I'm rooting for him. I am. And I didn't think I was going to say that ever during this season, because I was so pissed that they hired a guy with no experience. It just seems so off the wall and risky when you can't afford to take risks in the twilight of LeBron's career and AD, turning 32 in a few months. It just didn't seem to make much sense. But now maybe I'm starting to see what they saw. And I'm liking it, but he does feel like a bit of a time bomb. If it does go the wrong way, it could go really wrong. But that's all I got for this session. Hopefully we got more good news next time I hop on here. Maybe a couple more wins, and see some of these guys like Rui get back on track. D'Lo start to get comfortable in a bench role. Cam keeps playing well, and AD's healthy. I mean, that's the major concern right now, is just want to make sure AD's healthy and can continue playing games, and hopefully at some point get an update on Christian Wood and Vanderbilt, because it seems like those guys don't even exist at this moment. But okay, until next time, see you later.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.